Hey fam, welcome to the Corner Truth. I am your host, Coach K, motivational speaker and mindset life coach. And alongside of me tonight is my co-host, Dr. Kenneth, aka Coach Gray. And
Hello.
fam, we have a discussion for you tonight. So, hello, hello. But before we jump in, make sure you like and subscribe so we can train that algorithm to reach more viewers such as yourself. So, as you see in the topic tonight, we are going to be discussing, drum roll please, the Black fatigue. And for many of you, it's not going to be what you think because Black fatigue has taken on a new definition. So, back in the day or some time ago, the definition of Black fatigue centered around systemic racism and our culture's frustration with that
Mhm.
and moving away from that. But today, it has taken on a whole new definition. And this Black fatigue thing is becoming outrageous. You have young folks, older folks taking advantage of restaurants just doing foolish things that are being captured on social media and going viral. It is out of control. So now it's not just the lighter hue, if you will, that's talking about us, it's the Hispanics. And more importantly, it's our own people who are tired, they are sick, they are fed up with the obnoxious behaviors that are taking place. So just Coach, you and I both watched this video. There are several videos out there circulating
Yes.
where you see
Mhm.
people going into restaurants, ordering up the menu, and they start dipping out one by one without paying the check, or they have you see all sorts of things, fightings, people standing there, us ready to capture everything on film so that we can run and post it on social media. Our women walking out with bonnets on their heads,
Mhm.
slippers, going into public places, going into the schools, and our community is getting fed up with it. So, with that being said, Coach Gray, I'm going to turn it over to you and let the viewers hear your thoughts on this.
Well, again, we have to understand this is not new. Okay, this discussion is not new. What's happening
Mhm.
is the actual behavior is changing. Okay, um, there's a lot of videos, like you said, that's circulating online for likes, for even entertainment.
Mhm.
Okay, entertainment. So the thing about the fatigue part is I love black folks, so I'm never going to get tired of black people. So I
Mhm.
think there's a thing you have to understand, but the behavior of anybody, you migrate to how people act, but our people, when I see this and they're talking about my people, okay, so I put myself in there. I put my son and my daughter in there first before I make my comments. Okay, I'm going to put my son and my daughter out there in this generation because I'm from the old school.
Mhm.
Therefore, my mother would have told me, don't make me come down to that school. When one of us got in trouble, all of us got in trouble. And that wasn't
Mhm.
just something in my house, it was in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
It reverberated through my neighborhood. They knew when I was in trouble because they knew what the results were going to be. Let's go back as far as the United States having death penalties. What's that?
Mhm.
That's a deterrent for your behavior and your actions.
Mhm.
What's happening now is my mother's death penalty was don't make me come down to that school. And there's those things you watch on TV. I brought you in this world.
Mhm.
Take you out. When you don't hear that anymore, what are you afraid of? There's no fear from elders. This young generation don't even know what an elder is because we don't speak it. There's someone who dropped the ball, and there's a root to everything that's going on. The root is how did they get to this point?
Great question.
How
And
did it get this?
I also have a question for you.
Mhm.
So I've been pondering this thing, and my question to the viewers as well, do you think that media somehow is playing a role in this? And what I mean by that is, eh, you know how when you watch things on the news, crimes and things of that nature, they typically tend to show they get the worst person to interview from our culture, right? And they always portray us in a negative light. And
Mhm.
so they go to the ghetto, they go to the projects, and they pull
Mhm.
out the worst person to interview as if that person represents us all.
Mhm.
And it's done strategically because it gets the viewers to become desensitized against us. So when
Mhm.
you see a black male portrayed on the news committing a crime and they have their pants hanging down or what have you, the more repetition that gets it gets embedded in your brain. So naturally, even within your own culture, if you see a black man walking down the street, you see white women and even some in our own culture clutching our purses because we've been brainwashed to think that all black men are thugs. And so that circles me back to my question, do you think this is strategically done? Because it's stereotyping. And so when you see this, when you see these types of videos go viral, you see us fighting out in the streets over something stupid. And, you're yelling and we're in support of this. And it's stereotyping. And so I feel like they use that to paint the picture of this is the behavior of all Black people. So now people are cringing when we walk into their restaurants thinking that we don't know how to act, don't know how to carry ourselves. So do you think that they're going viral purposefully?
Well, you got to remember
What
that's the
you
old
think that
playbook.
stereotype?
That
Hmm.
that was the old playbook. What you just said was the old playbook. Now, I don't fault the media for doing their job. If I'm a journalist, I want the story. So wherever the story that I'm going to write and what I see, I want to write it. But here's the thing: when Black folks used to walk in to places, it used to be a whisper of how they would act. They were talking about us versus us showing that. Today, we are showing that. We are
Hmm.
actually acting it out by walking out, by shaking your behind on graduation because you graduated. That's your job. You don't have to twerk. You don't have to do this crazy nonsense because you have a degree. Now you are an educated idiot. That's what you act like. Okay. No, you don't have to be an educated idiot. What you should be doing, understanding that it's your behavior that judges you. Okay. To get the key to my house, you don't have to be educated. But if you act a fool, you'll never get the key to my house. But if you can be respectful, and if you can, just be that person that belong, that trusts or respects everybody around you, you can get the key to my house. No, I don't. I'm not saying that it's a target. But here's the thing: that was the media writing. Now today we are actually showing them that we are acting a fool. We are doing it to ourselves, but with what? With no accountability from home. If that kid is twerking on the stage of a graduation, they did it at home first. They did it in their living room first. They did it somewhere before they got to that stage. If I saw my son or my daughter doing something in my home, you're not doing that in public because you represent me. And I think that's what we've gotten away from, the fact that you don't represent the community, your home, and so on and so forth. No, no, no. I don't fault the reporters for going into a community, find the worst person because that was a stereotype. This one here, that's not a stereotype. That's reality.
So
The
I
actual-
agree and disagree at the same time. So
Okay.
the scenario that you say I painted was a thing of the past.
No, I said that was an old playbook. That was the playbook of a certain race of people who was defining us, writing
Mhm.
about us. and how we conduct ourselves.
And
No,
that playbook actually is still in existence. So when you say that you don't fault the media because the media is doing their job,
well, this is not the media anymore.
that,
This is internet. This is social media. They're doing
yeah,
it to they're doing it to themselves.
yeah, I get it,
Yeah.
and it's still a form of media. And yes, I agree with you. I remember me telling students that I used to teach, you know, don't give them ammunition to use
That's
against you. And
that's
yes, that is what we're doing. We're giving them ammunition to use
that's right.
against us. And but the sad part about it is, coach, is it's not just children.
No, I
These
know,
are adults
I
as
know,
well.
I know.
So I just want to go back to the media piece very quickly, and then I'll get off of that because I don't want to get hung up on this where it could be another topic. But it just hit me when you said, the media, the news media, they're just doing their job.
Mhm.
I just have an issue with that because I don't see the news media is doing their job. Well, in a sense, they are, because I see them as puppeteers. I see
Mhm.
them as, you know, stirring up strife. But that's a topic for another time. But I want to go back to, it's not just kids, it's adults alike. And
Mhm.
it's about that cycle repeating itself. And I think a couple of episodes ago, I mentioned um, a phrase that Dr. Miles Monroe once stated, and it had a very profound impact on me. He said, if your culture or your environment doesn't teach you the truth, then you will believe a lie, even about yourself, and that
Mhm.
will become the philosophy through which you influence other people. So when I
Mhm.
see these things, I see a cycle
Mhm.
repeating itself. So how do we get out of the maze?
Well,
Who do you
well,
think? Mhm,
well, first off, I'm not going to send my child in a maze without letting them know. First off, it may be difficult for you, but
mhm,
when you go through these pitfalls and these turns that you're not sure of, you don't have to do the thing to bring the negativity, the actual negative part to your attention. Now, the maze, the world for me is the maze,
mhm.
right? When my mother told me, right, honestly, and I have to go back to the old school, my mother, listen, you know what you're supposed to do and you know how to act. Okay. You always act a certain way, representing me.
Yeah,
Okay. Represent me. Now, the stereotype for 5 black boys in a community with one woman raising them, that statistic should have gone way left, but it didn't because I represented her and I knew what her standard was for me, no matter what the maze was that I had to go and figure out myself. Sometimes along the way, I met people to tell me, no, you don't want to go right, you want to go left, because
mhm.
there's a thing of people who really care for you. And then there's snakes out there too that want to really see your demise. How do we how do we really treat this maze that you're talking about as if it's not a big issue? Well, it starts at home by preparing kids. We got to start in the house at home like it used to be and tell them who you are, what to expect, how to
Yes.
conduct yourself.
Someone said that people are afraid of their kids,
Yes,
and
they
I,
are.
I agree with that. And
Yeah.
I I think that there's a line that should be drawn.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with being your kid's best friend to a certain extent. But when you don't know where that line is drawn, where you are the parent
Hmm.
and then friend, then
Hmm.
that creates an issue because it creates an issue with reverence. Because when a child sees you, and I know I'll get pushback from this, but when a child sees you as their peer,
Hmm.
there's no reverence for your position as a parent. They just see you as a peer.
Yeah.
and like their best friend, and the parental aspect of that goes out of the window.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so, I raised my son a little differently. I used to tell him, just as your mom, I'm old school as well. When you
Mhm.
walk outside of my household, you are my ambassador.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
represent
No matter
me.
what you face out there, no
You
matter what you
represent
face.
your name
That's
attached
right.
to you.
That's
You
right.
represent this
That's right.
household.
That's right. That's
And
right.
and I'm not saying that all of our community, the behavior is like that throughout the community. That's why I posed the question, do you think it is, because you have some things that can be relevant and it doesn't go viral. And so
Right.
it makes me wonder, are they purposely going viral because they're stereotyping and they want all of us congruently to be seen as this behavior is depicted so that they can say, see, I told you this is why they needed policing. I told you they wouldn't be able to be civil out here in the world without us. I told you. And there's a great part of me that feels like that's exactly what's going on. In addition to these people who are committing or performing these behaviors, giving others ammunition to use against them. It goes back to what you say. It's all about being accountable, but it just seems like they don't care.
Well,
They
it's again,
really don't care. It's like they're 15 minutes of fame. And I'm
and
like, mhm,
that's what we were talking before. What you were saying before. It's the fame. It's the likes on IG. It's the likes on Facebook. They do get paid for this stuff, And now my son had told me, he said, Daddy, if I get but so many likes, they will pay me. Well, who's they? Who's they will
mhm,
pay for this nonsense,
mhm.
right? Because it went viral. So many people are watching it. So there's something attached to the amount of people watching something. I mean, who is so again, we have to talk about the mindset of those who said we were not human,
Mhm.
the mindset of people who thought we couldn't think for ourselves. You ever heard of the bell curve years
Mhm.
ago,
Mhm.
right? We're not smart enough to be quarterbacks in the National
Mhm.
Football League. We're erasing all that. We
Mhm.
are erasing all that. All those things that say we were not, we are erasing that. But we're becoming a detriment to ourselves in our own community because we won't speak to what we see. It was pull your pants up, young man, right? Oh, the N word. Oh, it's not a. It's the N word. Does we don't mean what it doesn't mean what it used to be. It's a term of endearment. Bull, bull. When you accept things like that, then what you're doing is you're erasing these walls and these parameters, right? So you asked a question about the boundary. Well, I gave my son when he entered high school, I gave him a boundary, him and his mother and I. I said, you have 52 inches, a chain that stretches 52 inches. Mom and dad sits at 53. The world sits at 54. If you to get past me and mom, then the world is yours. But before you get past me and mom, it's going to be a fight on your hand. Because if you're
So,
not representing me and your mother going to 54, we have not done our job. That's the
whew,
thing.
whew.
You can get 52. 52 is comfortable for you and it's safe for you. But don't you get to 53 because now you're gonna be just like me and mom. So if you want to be like me and your mother, what do you know? Because we know what 54 is like. And if you don't have those tools to go to 54, I'd be damned if we're gonna let you go to 54.
So, okay. So, a couple of things here. You mentioned the N word, right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
there are many in the lighter hue community that say there's a difference between being the N word and a Black person.
Yeah,
And the difference is
I know.
the behavior that you see today in the Black fatigue.
Hmm.
That is the difference. So
Hmm.
they're sitting back again saying, I told you so. Because that is their definition of the difference between the N word and a Black person.
Well, let me
And
take you back. Let me take you back, and I'm going to say something, and again, hope we don't get in trouble for this. But let me take you all the way back. There's a guy named Sammy Davis Jr. You ever heard that guy name
of
before?
course,
You ever heard of a guy named Malcolm X
of
before?
course.
Sammy Davis Jr. made a statement. He said it was niggers who killed niggers, not black people who killed Malcolm. It was niggers, and niggers come in any color. You can be white nigger, black nigger. It doesn't matter. It's nigger is a thing.
Hmm.
Being black is a thing. But he said it was niggers who killed Malcolm X because Malcolm X said there was niggers out there. So calling a word is just a word. But when you have the intent of the word behind it, now you're talking mindset. See, I don't even use the word nigger. I don't even allow it on my football team. On my
Hmm.
football, you don't say that around me.
Hmm.
Okay, I only said it tonight to have a shock value to our show tonight,
Hmm.
because the word is so divisive that even in sports, I had to call coaches together and say, "Listen, I don't want to hear that word." I've had a penalty to go high because someone on my team said it, and I'm thinking, man, but again, it's the behavior, it's the mindset. We have to do this. We have to change this thing. Okay, we have to change the mindset.
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. So
Mhm.
changing the mindset is one thing, but what else is it going to take?
Policing ourselves. When you see someone, they say snitches, or was it snitches get stitches, right?
Hmm.
So they're not going to say anything when they see something
Hmm.
they should be talking about. Well, my grandmother would have gone to jail and died for what they believed in, and they don't care who they had to tell to protect who they love. Our
Hmm.
community used to be like that at one point,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So forget all those stitches I don't hear that. What I'm telling you is this: if we don't police ourselves, starting at home, starting in the house, and stop them from twerking in front of our TVs, stop them from doing the behavior before they get outdoors or into the schools, you won't have it in the school because it's not allowed out the door. It's
This
called
generation
policing.
is different. This generation is way different, and
Well,
it's
well,
gonna.
well, again, I think what I think is with this generation is we've gotten softer as parents. Okay, we've as parents we've gotten a hell of a lot softer than a generation before. Okay, so when I tell you I did something wrong up the street, my mother was going to get me, but somebody got me before my mother got me. We
Well, why
can't
do
touch.
you think we've gotten softer, though?
Huh?
Why do you think we've gotten
because
softer?
because of the laws, the power. You remember in 1983, a young man divorced his mom and dad
Hmm. Yep.
on TV,
Yep.
publicly.
Hmm.
There you go. How do you divorce your mother and your father? There's a system that actually supported this kid
Hmm.
divorcing his mom and dad.
Yes, I remember
Okay,
that.
come on,
Hmm.
man, divorce? Are you kidding me?
It says, someone said my son told his teacher he was a grown man. When he
Mm-hmm.
came home, I passed
Mm-hmm.
all the responsibilities of a grown man
Eggs.
onto him. Vanessa Turner said, I agree with you, Coach K. I mean, Coach Gray. So, I someone, let's say the millennials, they may not see their parenting as being soft because we had this one culture where the parents were teaching their kids to um, stand up with your voice, and they were and don't get me wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong with standing up for what you believe in. It's all in the context of how it's delivered. I'm not going to teach my child to go toe to toe with someone that's not his peer when it's disrespectful. Now
So
you could go,
when do you end it? When do you step in if you see them go? First off, to go toe to toe, that means they got in the fight.
yeah.
So when do you interject?
So here, I believe that. So what I do not believe in is I'm old school, but one of the things I did not believe in was that children should be seen and not heard, and I think that did a lot of damage to our children.
Okay.
So I do believe that they should be heard, but as
Okay.
like my mama used to say, you can say anything you want to say to me, just about anything, but it's how you say it that makes all the difference. And so I think we do lack communication, with our children. Um, but it goes back to, again, if we're being best friend versus parent, that's going to create something different. And then that relationship is going to continue on outside of the household. Like, there's nowhere in the world my 5-year-old should be standing up to a 50-something-year-old person and attempting, first of all, they haven't been on this earth long enough, and attempting to debate a 50-something-year-old, a grown man or grown woman, as if that's his or her peer.
Well, let me say this to you. And this is the thing. At 5 years old, I had something to say to my mother. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't say it. I'd be damned if I'm going to watch my niece or nephew, 5-year-old, I don't care, debate or say something to an adult, period.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how you were raised. That's not how I was raised. I'm shutting that down. I don't want to see that. That's just me. Okay. There is no debate here. When a mom and dad are speaking, you do speak when you're spoken to, but that mom and dad should allow you that time to do that when it's time to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I think we should have time for discussion. It used to be family discussion, used to be supper. You know what supper time is? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people don't know what that is. They
Mm-hmm.
have dinner time. You can eat anywhere now. All the
Mm-hmm.
problems used to be at the dinner, at the supper table. Before you even before you ate, you prayed. And then at the table, when you start to eat, the question was, what's going on with everybody? Let the whole
Yep.
family know what's
Yep.
happening. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it used to be. It can still
Mm-hmm.
be that way. Why? Because we have to bring it back, not just Thanksgiving, not just Christmas, but weekly. And we eat every day.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, bring
Mm-hmm.
it back. You parents are in charge. Call your child to say, look, if you can't be here, FaceTime me. You're doing it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But you
Mm-hmm.
better hear from what I'm saying. Just hear what we have to say. It's communication. But now, if I have to read your mind, that's foolishness.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the debating and when it's time to say what you got to say. I'm not going to call any names, but I had a situation that went like this. Um, well, since I'm old enough and I feel that I should say, and I have the right to say what I can, well, okay, I'll tell you what. Off the record, go ahead. Say what you got to say. That was from me. I allowed that discussion to go on because this person was younger than me. And I'm not going to call any names, but this story is real. But when the story went where I'm listening to you and then you come out your mouth and say, well, you're an asshole.
Mm.
Well, now you just crossed the whole line.
Mm-hmm.
One thing
Mm-hmm.
I earned was who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to get to the place that I am.
Mm-hmm.
So to say what you said is disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have to now become who I am to put you in check.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you what's about to face you, young man. And I wasn't wrong because there's an order to life. There's an order to being
Absolutely.
a mom. There's an order to being a dad. There's an order to being a mother, a grandmother, and a grandfather. You got to
Absolutely.
get to those places. So don't tell me at 5 years old you're a mom or dad. You still got to get the mom and dad ship.
So let's revisit that for a quick moment. So we talked about parenting. Let's go back to grandmothers, grandparents.
Yep.
There seems to be
There you go. Come on, bring
absenteeism.
it. Bring it.
There
Come
seems to be
on.
absenteeism because, in our era growing up, we had the big mamas, you know.
You know why? No one wants to have the title of grandmother anymore. They want
Yes,
to be, they want to
yes.
be K
The
ma, D
grandma,
ma,
grandma,
something with some type of
fancy.
young.
Yes.
No, come on. You earned it. You know why you're a grandmother? Because you had a child, and your
Yeah.
child had a child. There
Mm-hmm.
are things that's called. You can't get the grandmother without having a child, having another child. Those are steps. Those are orders. Don't erase my history like that.
Absolutely. And then we still have grandparents out here partying with the grandchildren,
That's fine, but
partying
party
with,
over there.
yes,
Now,
absolutely.
well, let me say it this way. I told my son and I told my daughter, my son is 27 years old. I said, if I walked into a place where you and your friends are, I'm walking out. He said,
Mm-hmm.
why? I said, because you were here first. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm in here, you walk into a place where I'm at, I'm walking out. He said, why? Because you showed up. You're not going to be where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Unless
Mm-hmm.
it's a family reunion, you're not going to
Mm-hmm.
party like me. I'm not going to show you my habits of what I do. No, you got to
Absolutely.
write your own story, right? That's what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, community wise, how do we change the community? How do we begin to change the mindset of the community with this behavior? You
It's
know,
called a call to action. It's
it's called
called
what?
a call to action.
A call to
So,
action.
call to
Okay.
action.
But we're going to get pushback because
It
again, this
doesn't matter.
generation
Not
is
everybody
different.
agrees. You don't agree with your mother. I didn't agree with my mother. But
Hmm.
here's the thing, I had to listen to her because she was my mother. Now, when I got old enough and I dealt with another lady, I explained to her, you are the other, not my mother. So I don't have to
Hmm.
listen to you. But
Hmm.
what happens is out of respect, I'm going to listen to her. Why? Because my mother taught me how to be respectful to when people are
But
speaking.
that's what we've lost. We've
That's
lost the respect.
exactly what we've lost.
It's
We've lost the
it's
respect.
it's it's what you said earlier. We've
Yeah,
lost respect for positions
that's
and
right.
authority.
Yes, we have.
Parents were seen as ones who had authority in the home.
Hmm.
And now we see instances where parents don't even respect themselves. So if they don't respect themselves, you can't demand respect from your children and expect your children to go out and respect other people. And
But here's what
so,
you can do. But here's
mhm,
what you can do.
mhm,
If my mother knew I had a friend that was disrespectful, you know what she would have told him? You stay outside.
mhm,
You're not
mhm,
allowed in my house.
mhm.
Then they had to stand outside or wait for me on the porch or on the
I
step
like that.
until
Let me
I
tell you what
came
my
out.
mom.
She was not going to let anybody in her house that was going to change her sons because she
Mhm,
was invested in us.
mhm,
Okay. And if
mhm,
we went out there and act a complete fool, trust me, I know parents and guys, we had stories all the time where young man got arrested, mom said, leave him in there.
mhm,
He
mhm.
got to learn a lesson. He wants to be grown or act like he, leave him in there. See how he's going to get out. See, the problem that we have is we're afraid that a kid that falls down, scrape his knee, and cry a little bit is going to hurt him. Nah, that scraping is just toughen them up. Okay,
Mhm.
we have to make sure that we don't coddle them. We don't have to make sure we don't handicap them. And that word handicap is real. And we're not handicapping them physically, we're handicapping them here. We're handicapping them here in the mental, in the psychological side.
Mhm.
Okay. Look, I've been around, I've watched, I've been a part of this thing. And 60 years old, trust me, is 60 is not old. But the fact of the matter is I've seen the old, the in between, the X, that's us, and now this new generation. Now I have the data and I can see the optics of it all. But the fact of the matter is when your foundation is weak, everything's weak.
Absolutely. And that I definitely agree on. And you mentioned coddling them. I see more parents in these times, wanting to play God, if you will, save their children from everything. And how can you expect them to learn if you don't allow them to fall? They cannot go through life on your experiences. Your experiences, yes, should be a lesson to them, a deterrent, but they need to gain their own experiences. And we cannot help them grow if we don't allow them to fall. And particularly, we see that a lot with single mothers. We want to coddle our sons, and we want to be there at their every beck and call. I don't know if we thought that somehow that doesn't make us a great mother if we're not there, you
No.
know. But I remember, my mom, before I get to that point, when you said that if some of your friends showed up and they were disrespectful, they weren't allowed in the house, it made me think of my mother, where if my friends came by to pick me up, you were not allowed to blow the horn. If
Hey,
you came through and you blew the horn for me, you blew it for me having
right,
an opportunity of going out with you. Because my,
right.
my mother thought that that was the utmost disrespect. You had to come to her front door.
Well, they had standards. They had
Yes,
standards,
we had
right?
standards.
Whether you agreed or disagreed, it was
Yep,
her rules in her house.
yep,
Now,
absolutely,
if we're
absolutely.
talking about democracy and dictatorship, there was no democracy in my home. It was one dictator. It was her way or no other way.
Absolutely,
And if I
absolutely.
got in trouble, all four of my brothers looked at me like, you
You got us in trouble.
always, right? So where's the accountability? So what happens is, oh, she's twerking, but I ain't worried about all that. No,
But
you
see,
better
look. Here's speaking of that twerking.
be.
I wanted to go back what I was saying really quickly. I wonder if a mother isn't coddling her son or saving her son or daughter from everything, does she feel that she's not invested in their lives? Because just like you say, when we're there at their every beck and call, and we're playing God and saving them from everything, we do them such a disservice in life. We really do. We do them a disservice to other civilians, their partners, their wives or husbands. We do them such a disservice. Um, what was the last thing you just left off with? Because I wanted to
The
touch base.
twerking part.
Say that again.
The twerking.
Oh yes, yes. Oh my God. This even years ago, I used to see little kids dancing, little girls just gyrating their bodies. I mean, just before twerking became a
It
thing.
was the
And
stinky leg, and I know my daughter tried it, and I told her
well,
mother,
not
"Don't you
even, not even
ever,
just the stanky
don't you
leg, just
ever let
it's
me
just
see that
been
now."
watching videos, watching these music videos, and they performing these seductive moves at 5 years old, and I'm like, it used to disturb me to my core because I'm like, there is absolutely nothing cute about this that should be applauded, because you're the very person who's going to want to castrate somebody the moment they look at your
Well,
child differently. So
right,
why
right,
is this acceptable?
right.
There I raised my child. I didn't care. They said,
Well,
well, there.
remember the paradigm shift. The
Mhm,
paradigm shift is we used to babysit for our families, one another. When it got to a point where everybody was doing their own thing, how are you going to babysit? Well, they put these kids in front of videos and let them watch
mhm,
the videos until they went to
mhm.
sleep.
Yep,
They knew they were in
absolutely.
the room, but
Mhm.
those videos was really the ones they were watching because that's what they were drawn to. So trust me, a lot of moms. I know. I used to put my son in the room when his favorite cartoon was on. Let him sit in his cartoon if I was doing some work at the house because I knew it would entertain him. But I made sure the content he was watching was favorable to me and my wife.
Yeah,
Okay, he wasn't going to
absolutely.
just watch just anything,
Yeah.
but I knew it was something to gain his attention before he went to sleep. So we had to vet that too.
And that's how getting back to what I was getting ready to finish my point on, that's how I raised my son. Like,
Mhm.
the music, the type of music that he listened to, it
Sure.
had to be age appropriate, because here again, I find nothing cute with little children walking around singing adult lyrics. I find nothing cute about that. And you know if music make you feel a certain way, kids experiment too. They have those feelings too. And this is how you get into things like pornography, introducing a young mind to something that it's not mentally or emotionally prepared for. It can ruin a child. And people used to give me pushback and say, well, he's going to hear it when he's out in the street. I
Hmm.
don't control what's going on out in the street. I can only control what goes on inside of my household. He's also going to see drugs out in the street. Does that mean that I have to do drugs in my household because
Right.
he's going to sit out in the street? I
Right.
can only control the environment
Right.
that I raise him in, the foundation that I'm setting for him. And so
Right.
I'm building him up so that when
Hmm.
he gets out in the street, he knows how to be civil. He knows
Hmm.
how to address certain situations. He knows how, when I say civil, he knows how to be a productive citizen in society where he doesn't have to take on the demeanor of his peers.
Right.
And there has to
Right.
be,
Well,
like you said, there has to be a balance. There has to
right.
be a balance.
Well, there's a thing. Um, Peer pressure. Peer pressure is absolutely a powerful thing. Okay, girls going through it now, boys going through it. One time we just thought it was a really a boy thing of behavior. There are more girls acting out today than boys,
Hmm.
right? There are more kids, more girls getting in trouble with the law and courts or whatever than boys are because there's a behavior trait. There's a paradigm shift in what's allowed and what's not allowed, right? So the problem is we are not we're not taking the standards of who I am and we are as parents and say, look, put it in your pocket right here. Carry this around. If you're not sure, take a look at it. Well, we used to do that. Then all of a sudden we didn't need it anymore because it was ingrained here,
Hmm.
right? It's ingrained. I don't think we are allowing and holding our kids to a standard that we used to had what we had to um, we were expected to fall under. I just think it's a detriment because it goes back to what you're saying. Want to be friends, want to buy their friendship or reward them for taking out the trash, but that's your duty. You'll get. I'm not paying you for doing something you're supposed to.
Oh, and you brought up a good
Make good
point.
grades. Make good grades, and that's your job. You make good grades, you get rewarded. There are rewards, but I'm not paying you to be a good son or good daughter. This is what you're supposed to be. I'm not gonna. No, I'm not buying you. Not
So
happening.
a couple of things here. Someone asked in the chat about dance studios that what do we think about dance studios that promote sex appeal? Well, what I think about it is you're the parent, not to be disrespectful, but you're the parent. And if it's not age appropriate for your child, I give it no thought. My child will not be there. That's my thought on it. And so if it's something that's outside of my standards of how I'm trying to raise my daughter, there will be zero participation, none whatsoever. Because
Well,
again,
what type of
um,
studio? I mean, what type of dance studio is it? Is it ballet? Is it creative dance? Is it cheerleading? Those folks, those things come with studios, right? And they come with attire, and they come with performance if they're competing or something of that nature. But if you're just going to a club, that's a studio too, right? So if you're on the floor at the club and they call it a Studio 54, come on, man.
but I think they're talking about
I'm
children.
just messing with you. I
But
understand.
you do have a point. But I think they're talking about children. And again,
Yeah,
no disrespect to that person. I seen like on television where they have these little studios where they make up these little girls. They're in there,
mhm.
have their little dance competition, and they have 6 year olds, 7 year olds made up like grown women, and they
That's a parent,
have them
that's a parent's
performing
choice.
that's
That's
what I said.
that's the parent's choice.
It's the parent's choice. That's what I think about it. It's the parent's choice. But I want to go back. We touched a little bit about mothers, single mothers. I want to touch on the absentee fathers
Hmm.
and how they play a role in these types of behaviors as well.
Hmm.
So sometimes they enter into the picture, or they're there buying the child's affection because they've been gone so long, or they didn't have a relationship with them. They take them out and they want to buy them everything. That's not parenting either. That's buying past time, time that you've missed with them. That's buying their affection for you. And you're not going to gain respect that way either. And another thing I wanted to address when you were talking about, when your son was younger, you put him in the room with age appropriate content on television, what have you. But
Hmm.
nothing's changed. Television is still raising our children, not really television, but social media and gaming. It's just
Hmm.
taking on a different form. It's the same thing that's raising our children because we have parents. Parents deal with a lot. So we have parents who have children that's on the autism spectrum, and at a young age, they're not sure how to deal with that, or it can become overwhelming if you are a single parent. They aren't given the necessary tools to be able to deal with that. It is a lot raising an autistic child, and especially if you're
Hmm.
doing it alone.
Hmm.
And so we need to make sure that these people have the resources that they need. They
Well,
need,
let me say this to you. The system. Let's go back to the system first before we talk about the dads itself, because I think it relates to, right. Um, if a man and a woman made a child,
Mhm.
how much of that child belongs to the woman? How much child did that belong to the man? Okay. In this system, the court's going to say, well, mom, you have custody. But the dad said, well, I would like to have custody too. So there's a fight in there. Okay. What if a dad doesn't want any involvement? Well, the court should say, you made this child, you too have to you too have to have responsibility for this child, not just every other weekend. Okay. And I think the system can change there too, to allow some of these dads to be present. Now, I think the system also allows men to hide behind that to where they don't have to be involved with their
Mhm.
children.
Mhm.
Okay? And that's just my opinion. Me who runs toward my children, when the system tries to treat me like I'm a person running away, the system is wrong. Okay. Now that's just me telling you this because I can't speak for every man
No.
that doesn't get involved with their
So,
child.
so, so break that down. What are you saying in layman's terms? So you're saying that.
What I'm saying is what I'm saying, I never met my father that was 36 years old. Okay,
Mhm.
let's just put it that way. Okay, I seeked my identity to find out who I was. My name was named after you. I just wanted to know who I was. Okay, that was my as a child, my drive to find out who's Kenny Gray, right? What my mother and my father went through, I don't know what went wrong there. I don't know what got off base there. I don't know why my father wasn't around. I don't know. But when I became a father, I made sure the most important thing I could do is be present to I'm not buying my children. I'm
Mhm.
sitting right here with
Mhm.
my children. Whether moms agree or not, I am not going anywhere. Whether the courts say I'm not going anywhere, that's my stance.
So basically,
That,
you're saying that you're not going to allow a system to dictate how you
exactly.
father your child. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So yeah. So let's cover all aspects. Let's call a spade, since we're talking about how this behavior came about.
Mhm.
We have guys out here who are fathering children and don't want to be a father, and 10, 12 kids, different
Mhm.
baby mamas, just
Mhm.
being irresponsible. And then you
Mhm.
have some telling the women, hey, I don't want any kids. If you get pregnant, that's on you. You have females out here, oh, he's cute, I want to have a baby by him because I want my baby to be cute. I want my baby to have good hair. All of these things, literally, let's call a spade a spade. So you have women out here purposefully getting pregnant because somehow they think in their mindset it's going to hold on, that child is going to cause them to hold on to that man. And so we're up against so many dilemmas. And we have where I know you said earlier that we start by policing ourselves, but it seems like we need to dig a little deeper because that root is strong. It don't just start there. It is, and it doesn't just start with parenting in the home. There's so many variables. Your parents, their mindset, how they were raised, their mental stability, their emotional IQ, all of these are variables that come into play. And
Yeah.
so I'm asking from that standpoint, what do we do? And so one of my solutions is we talk to as many people as possible. Never waste a teachable moment, and because that's how I am. Whether you want to hear it or not, that's your choice. If you choose to receive what I'm sharing, if it's like eating a watermelon, eat the flesh
Hmm.
and spit out the seeds. Take what you can use and what you can't, throw it away. But
Hmm.
I'm never going to pass up a teachable moment because
Right.
that's like sharing your testimony.
Right.
When things happen in your life and you hold it to yourself because you're ashamed and afraid of what others going to think about you, you never know what parting your lips, how that's going to heal someone else and bring healing in their situation. So it's the same thing with not passing up teachable moments because you never know who's waiting on that one word or that one statement that can shed light, that can change somebody's life for the better. Not saying that we have the ability or power to change someone, but we certainly can sow the seeds. And that's why I choose to never pass up a teachable moment.
Right. And I think teacher moments are everywhere wherever you go in every walk of life that you're gonna have something you can learn from. But when you said about women and men who get women pregnant or women who get pregnant by a man to try to keep them or whatever the case, that's been going on for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is it's more of a control thing, but it's really not about that child. It's really
Right.
about that individual trying to keep that woman or that man.
Of course.
Right. So it's a selfish ass situation.
It really
All the
is.
way it's
It,
extremely
it is.
selfish,
On
right?
both sides, I
On,
can't
on
stand to
both
see
sides. On
either
both
of
sides.
them use a child as leverage. That child
Exactly.
had, if you
Exactly.
at least have the good sense enough to be an
Exactly.
adult in
Right.
front of your children, don't
Right.
use your children as leverage. If you
Right.
don't like the person, you don't have to live with them.
So,
But
so
allow
what,
that person to be a parent, whether it's the father or mother, allow that person to be that parent to your child. Now, the only way I'm in disagreement is if that child being with the other parent, it places that child in harm's way.
only if there is a sense of where that parent is going to be harmful to that child.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there has to be some type of data, some type of proof that this stuff happens and is not safe for the child. If it's not safe for the child, so first off, you gotta remember the state of any state has jurisdiction over that child until they're 18 years old. Why? Because if something happened to the mom or dad, the state is responsible for that child. So even the well-being and the harming of the child. So that's the system, right? We know the system is set up to take care of that kid until that kid's 18 years old to be
Mhm,
emancipated. But there are kids out there who's emancipated because moms and dads don't want to be around their children. And that's
mhm,
another topic for another show. But we're
mhm.
talking about the fatigue side of us, right?
Yes.
All the things we're talking now is probably a variation of why some people, some kids, some this generation or whatever the case. But like I said, in my generation, we had the same thing too. Parents complaining about how we acted. You know,
Mm-hmm.
quite sure what
Mm-hmm.
happened in the '60s. I'm quite sure what happened in the '50s and the '20s. I'm quite sure. But what we're seeing today, we didn't have media. We didn't have the eyeball on us like this, right? What you did in the dark years ago was still done. We just didn't see it.
Yeah,
Now it's right front and center, and it's becoming an annoyance. Okay,
it
it's
really.
becoming something that we don't want to see
Mm-hmm.
every day. But that doesn't
So
mean it doesn't happen behind closed doors.
we have just under 5 minutes to kind of sum this thing up. So I see a lot of Black people within our community saying things like, they're embarrassed about these behaviors that are going on. They are ashamed to be Black, and they cringe when they go into stores and go into restaurants. So, very quickly, to sum this up, what would you say to those people? Because we need more time to really dig deeper into this and about the stereotypes. But what would you say to those people?
You're Black for a reason. You had no choice in that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my point is, as a community, we need to come together and say what are the standards that we expect for all of us to operate under,
Mm-hmm.
old, young, and older. That's it. Bring the
So
standards back. No,
revisit the
so
standards,
and
because
be
without
proud about
that,
being Black. Yeah, be proud.
we're never going to be able to
That's with anybody.
unify and to
That's
fight for
anybody.
a greater cause.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a wonderful discussion. I thank you, viewers, for joining the Corner Truth. Again, my name is Coach K. I'm a
And
mindset life coach and motivational speaker, and my co-host is none other than the Dr. Kenneth, aka Coach Gray. And don't forget, if you haven't done so already, to hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time, we are out.